Hello, everybody. Welcome to another stream. So we have another exciting industry spotlight for you today. Today we got Robert Vignone. Robert, welcome. Thanks for being a part of the stream today.
No, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to let people see what you've built here. Robert's a great example as an artist that's been using ZBrush for years, and you decided, you know what? I'm going to start doing my own thing and build a business. So this is going to be a fantastic stream for those of you out there that really want to use something like ZBrush to build a business from. There's a lot of people that have done it, and Robert's a great example here, and some very cool work too. That's very different that I think you're all going to really enjoy. So, Robert, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you're super busy with everything, to spend some time with us to show us what you've accomplished and done.
It's been a long time. The pandemic's made it so I haven't been able to visit anyone from Pixelogic for several years. So
yeah, it's been a while. As I like to call it, the blimp of COVID. I never know. I don't even know what year it is ever anymore.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, my brain still can't comprehend that it's 2022. I think, or something. I don't know. Okay, well, we'll share your screen because I know you want to share some stuff. So we'll put your screen up so you can share some. You're going to start with some image, so I'll let you take it from here and walk us through everything you've done here.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to dive right into it. Basically, in 2016, the short story is I accidentally started a company making what we call artisan keycaps for mechanical keyboards. It was at a time where I just moved out of Los Angeles. I left my old job at DreamWorks, and I'm based in Davis, California now. And there's not much entertainment industry here. And this was before the remote work was still really a thing or even a possibility for many people. So I was researching keyboards one day, and I found some other people doing clay sculptures and kind of just having fun and taking a keycap off their keyboard, sculpting on top of it and putting it back on. And I was like, I can do that. I've been 3D printing for years at this point. I used to do a lot of figurines and my own toys and just a lot of past experience with that type of procedure. And I was like, how about I make my own keycap? So I did a few, and they just kind of got really popular. And at one point, I was just kind of like this one-man show, like a small Etsy store. I would sit in my office. I would design in ZBrush. I would kick them off on my 3D printers. At the time, I had two Form 2s, and I just print them off. And at the time, I didn't even know how to hand paint them, actually. So this was like a big learning experience for me, even getting into this idea of manufacturing stuff from ZBrush to printing to priming and hand painting and selling and maintaining a community and a product line. It was all new. It all happened literally within a month. I went from non-existing to making, at the time, hundreds and hundreds of keycaps for various fans and stuff like that. So
so I see you have the wash right there. Did you get the cure too? Are you using the wash and the cure too for your process?
I have a cure, but you don't really need to post cure the Formlabs resins. They're not too. The only one I did have to do is the durable resin, which is a very it's in the name. It's a very durable resin. It doesn't break or shatter. And I was using that for certain parts of keycaps at one point. So I did have the cure going at one point.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of a more introduction to what kind of stuff I did is because I came from the entertainment industry in general, everything I know, everything I love, everything I've done has been working in movies and video games for the past 20 years, I guess you would say. Yeah, 20 years. So I started my first job at Tippett Studio in 2003, I believe, 2003, 2004. And before that, I was in college learning modeling and stuff. And basically, I started making like my own, bringing the world of different things that I love. Like this is an example of a flux capacitor from Back to the Future, something that I was like, I should make one of those. So like, I was dealing with discovery of resins and pouring and, like I said, hand painting and engineering and tolerances and all these other trades that I kind of dabbled in a little bit, doing like character figurines, and even modeling and production. You still have to model realistically. You have to think realistically a lot of the times, like how things might work or plug in, or like a door, how it opens, all those kinds of things. So, I guess I wasn't completely aloof when it comes to like how things are supposed to be made, but
right.
You can see at which the extent might impact a person who is a avid artisan keycap collector. So
Wow.
This is a photograph of a guy that was at the time was like a super fan of red and black keycaps, right? And so he was on a mission to collect all types of artisan keycaps of various styles and procedures, and just build a whole keyboard with all red and black variations.
Right.
Of them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the world I stepped into, if you will. And that, like I said, that was 2016. This is at a keyboard meetup in 2018, I believe. Which is the thing. People go around and share keyboards and show them off, and show like what builds they're doing. There's so many aspects to the keyboard at this point that it's actually insane. So yeah.
So where did you see the original ones being done? Like, what site were you on that you saw people?
It was on Reddit. It was just a Reddit post. It was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I think, yeah, a little more detail to that story is like, I was searching for a keyboard for my wife, who was like, I need a new keyboard. And then I was like, oh, let's get you a nice keyboard. And then I searched for keyboards, and then the Reddit mechanical keyboard Reddit popped up, and I was like, oh, that look cool. And on there, everyone's like at least at the time, it was probably like 100,000 to 200,000 people on the subreddit. Now it's over 1 million.
Wow.
And at the time, it was like everyone's an expert photographer, it seemed like, and had really beautiful photos of really beautiful keyboards. And so they kind of just became art pieces. And then after researching more, she ended up not wanting one or getting one, but I did. I got one. So I was like, I guess I'll get one and try it out, And yeah, from there it was stuck. But it's funny how you stumble upon an entire world or industry that you had no idea existed. Yeah.
Mark Johnson's asking what the subreddit was again.
Are mechanical keyboards. Don't do it. Protect your wallet. No.
Listen, I think mechanical keyboards are making a huge comeback. Like, that's what I have now. I got.
I mean, we're way past the comeback stage. I think it's more like they're just keyboards. Like, I think it's the standard. You go to any like, I don't know, like normal computer supply store, which is not very many around these days. But even if you go to Target, like you go to where they sell keyboards, it's, you got your big players like Razer and Corsair and HyperX, etc. All basically their basic keyboard is mechanical keyboards. So yeah,
nice. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I guess this is a little bit of the short version of the journey, right? So I did this, and eventually I got so busy with orders, and it was getting to the point where I was probably working like 12 hours a day, sitting down, probably drinking whiskey and painting at my desk for like the entire day, because it was just. You see, I don't know if you've seen this photo, like all these little stands.
Yep.
Like I would have 2 or 3 of these all lined up, and I would just go through, and I would be like my own little production line. And these are all things that I didn't know I needed to do, or like basically had to figure it out myself.
Right.
And this is my little streaming setup that I set up to do Twitch streams every once in a while. And so basically I got to the point I was so busy working all the time and basically going insane. I don't know. And my wife kept saying, you got to hire people. You got to hire people. I was like, I know. But then I got to train them and like manage them and do all these things. And then I was, he's a friend now, obviously, and he's actually a business partner, but a non-friend at the time, his name is Max. He reached out to me over Twitch. He was watching my stream and I was streaming this design. It's called the Apollo, which is basically like a little NASA style helmet. And here's another version, the visor opening. So this is like the R&D that I was doing of like, okay, I want moving parts, I want magnets, I want things that can be replaced.
Right.
And so he discovered me on Twitch, and he's like, you know what, like, you love doing entertainment stuff. Like, what do you think about getting into licensing? And I was like, yeah, but like, you need all this money and like, you have a reputation and contacts and stuff. And so we talked and like I would be in my garage until midnight, like working on keycaps and painting, building, and he would be on like live stream with me, just kind of like working me through and like kind of being a little coach, I guess, and just like having my back on that growth and that time. And we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's start getting licenses. He joined my company officially. I think it was like 2019 at the time, or 2020. Yeah, it was like right during the pandemic era.
Oh.
And like you said, you don't know what year it is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, it's been such a blur for me.
Yeah.
But basically, we started a studio. Like, we hired some painters that are students at UC Davis. We started training them, and kind of, you really have a fast forward now. You know, I could probably talk for literal hours about every nuance of the journey, but now we have a full studio in Davis downtown. We have 10 people working for us, various trades of art. Most of them are students or ex-students at UC Davis. And we've kind of built out like our entire production and studio here in Davis. And I'm going to pause and like let people ask any questions they want to ask. But
yeah, so a question came up for the pieces that you're making. Are you just going straight direct from the print to sell, or are you doing any recasts?
It's a good question. So when I was starting out, I didn't want to have the mess and the limitations of casting be a part of my process, because the print quality off of the Form Labs was already so good. So basically it was direct from print, prime, and like to consumer. Yeah. Now, fast forward, we have the money and capacity and the people, and that's kind of what this shot is here. This is our casting room, and my employee Jessica, Ashley, in the corner there, she's just pouring a new pot of silicone. So we're doing casting now. We do a lot of like masters and then make copies of it. We do have our printers still running, which we have. Where are you? Here we go. We have six Form 3s running 24/7 basically, and they've been running 24/7 for the last like 2 years. And so we print a lot of parts off on those printers, and then sometimes we'll print off masters and start making copies. So it really depends on the piece or the keycap. Some of the keycap designs that we do just can't be cast. At least I don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Right. So you are still, some of them going straight from 3D print to.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like many of them. Yeah.
Many. Yeah.
It's just really efficient, and you remove a lot of the. There's almost no cleanup because of the way you print.
Right.
you print it in a way that there's all those supports on the bottom, which it takes
Right. And you just
a
cut them
single
off.
pass of sanding on the bottom, and you're done. Yeah.
Right.
And as I mentioned, the print quality is already like, at least at this price point for a 3D printer, it's already the best you can get. So
what micron are you printing at then? Are you printing at 100, 150?
25 micron.
You are doing it 25.
Yeah, everything is at 25. Yeah.
Okay.
And
the resin, are you still using the clear? I saw you were using clear originally. Is
yeah.
that still your go-to?
So I think in this particular shot, this is an old photo, like really old. I don't know why I was printing in clear here, but I was probably out of gray resin.
Yeah.
But I usually print in black or gray. Right now, everything's printed in black and gray. And that's what's all loaded up in here. These are all gray. Okay. Gray. Yeah. Technically, I find, if you're wondering about the two resins, black versus gray, specifically to Formlabs, the gray resin is like a little smoother, and the black resin maintains like a sharper, say, like edge detail. Like you got something like very sharp edged, it'll like retain that edge a little bit better. But then you tend to see a little bit more like layer line kind of building up the shapes. So things that are really geometric, we tend to print in black. But yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so just kind of like a little glance of the studio. We have multiple sanding stations, have some 3D printers. We have a nice view of Davis with coffee next door and all kinds of stuff like that. Some what I call trophies. You know, we worked with League of Legends, Riot Games, to do keycaps for them. We're doing another big job for them this year, which is probably going to be available in like a few weeks. We did a big thing with Among Us, which started off last year, and it took us moving. We moved to a new studio. This place that we're in now, we were actually in a smaller spot last year. So yeah, it was quite the journey to finish up our what we call keymates, which is kind of a pun for crewmate. Those were part of a big collaboration with the team there at Innersloth, which was fantastic, the whole journey. We have 3 washing stations now, which is honestly too few for how many printers we have. So, but we are also just like completely out of space. So 3 wash stations, and that's our little curing machine that, like I said, we don't really use too much.
Right.
This is the main floor where everyone paints and builds. So this is kind of like our building area. We're assembling. These are Riot keycaps right here. So we're building those out and assembly, and then there's like a rack here, which is this thing. So it has paints that people can grab. We have like 10 or 15 of any color, pretty much, tons of glue. The amount of supplies that we've had to buy is insane. Like, we're just like, oh, we need more gray, like more gray paint, which is, we use a lot of gray. You know, like buy 10 bottles, you know, and then all of a sudden you need to buy 10 more bottles. So this is what we build as what we call a QC rack, quality control rack.
Yep.
So pretty much every day, whatever someone paints, what they finish up, they'll put in these little trays, and then the next day, the next morning, another painter will come and look at what needs to be sort of reviewed and looked over, and then they'll give them feedback, and then they'll go back to that painter to get touched up and fixed and approved, and then down the rest of the pipeline.
So what's your best resource for all this painting you're buying? Where are you buying all this paint?
Yes. This is a pro tip, guys.
Okay.
So I 100% recommend buying so I'm a big fan of Game Color by Viejo. And you can buy like their $50 like color pack. It comes with like at least 10 paints, and it comes with all your basic stuff.
Okay.
But if you want individual paints, buy them on eBay. I know it's weird, like, because you buy a bottle of paint, this one, you can buy this on Amazon for $8. $7 or $8, maybe 6. Model color, gray, black. That's black. Buy that on eBay for $3, and you can buy like 6 of them. So if you're like, you're always going to go through a lot of your basic colors like black, white, gray,
Right.
Light gray, dark gray, and so it's you're paying 2x the price, and you don't actually Amazon, they'll like include, it's like free shipping, but like they really include the shipping price in the product, and it really hurts you if you're buying individuals because you're paying $3.50 on every time you buy paint on Amazon. So yeah.
Good tip. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, so eBay is the place. Doesn't matter where. All the hobby stores that are scattered across the United States, and at least US based, I don't know why, but they tend to sell their paints on eBay too. They have like, they'll just list, these, they'll say they have 15 in stock, and then you can buy 5 or 10 or whatever you want, and you get them all shipped to you for $5. And so you can save a lot of money.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Let's see here. This is our airbrush station. So we have this is where we prime and airbrush. This is our boy Andy, who sits over in the station here, and he does all the priming and airbrushing typically. We have like a stupid amount of airbrushes, and we this chamber here is probably like, I think it was like $2,000. It's expensive, but it has a carbon filter and medium all built into this box up here. It's kind of behind this Pokemon 3-pack thing. But basically it filters out all the particulates and the smells from all these chemicals that are in like primer, which is probably the worst thing that we use, and maybe the varnishing. Yeah. And let's see, anything else cool?
And the packaging, you guys are doing the packaging as well, or you're contracting out for the packaging?
We do the yeah. So it's super cheese, right? But like that quote of like a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Like that can't be more true with the position that I kind of fell into, because like everything from marketing to photography to copy to management, and like I can't even name the amount of trades that I've had to like pick up on the fly, that I was like woefully unprepared for.
Right.
And like it goes right into that too. So packaging. So now I'm doing like, so originally, let me pull up a couple of our old boxes. So I'll just throw these up on my camera here. Let's see here. So this is, want to throw me up full screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me move, make it full screen. There you go.
So this is my office back here. It has basically a photo studio, paint desk, and computer. So I basically can do almost everything in my office here. So we started off with the package design is not crazy. It's a white box, with some copy on the back and a little link to our website. And then we kind of upgraded to these circle boxes. So this began the journey of like, where does packaging come from? Who can I trust to send me like thousands of boxes?
Right.
And so I found this company. They're based out of China, which is where probably most packaging comes from, I think. And this is our current packaging. So it's still circle box. We have the gold foil Clackeys, various socials on the bottom, and link, and
nice.
Don't choke on your keep caps. So with that box, we've had this relationship with this box supplier for 5 years now, I guess. So they did like our Among Us boxes. So if you guys can see, that's the Among Us character with like a keyboard on his head as a hat. That was designed by the team at at Among Us. Well, like in collaboration with us, I was like, hey, how about this?
Right.
We came to that idea. I don't really remember whose exact vision that was. And a lot of times it's the way stuff kind of comes together. But yeah, basically we have an Among Us character with a keyboard on top, which I think is really cool. And then your basic copy on the back. So here's the League of Legends one from last year. So same thing. So, you know, we had this relationship with the box supplier, and, you know, copy on the back.
Yeah, they're nice. They're just clean, simple.
Clean, simple. Here's the keycap inside. You know, this is the Riot cap from last year. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's super delicate. Really, really cool keycap.
That's cool. Yeah, you don't know until you get into it, right? Then you find out, wait, I got to figure this out, and go find people that you can work with to figure that out, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
Big one. This packaging design that you see here was done by the marketing agency that we were working with to do the Xbox Game Pass artisans. So this is what we did. We were doing this at the beginning of the year. So we had the fantastic opportunity to like work on things that we really, really love, which is some of these games. And so like I got to personally design and like pitch 8 different artisan concepts to the marketing agency that they would go and show the client, for example. So, you know, we got Age of Empires, Back 4 Blood, Halo, Forza, Hades, Skyrim, Flight Simulator, and Minecraft. So like you really couldn't ask for a better case study of like what are the possibilities of making artisans, because each one of these games has a different look, different style. Like how do you encompass an identity of a video game into one single object? These are all things that like I would just stay awake at night, like thinking about like, oh God, how am I going to do that? And some of these were like really easy, and some were really hard. The hardest one to do for me, in this particular one, is the Flight Simulator. They gave us a model of like an airplane. They're like, here you go, here's an airplane. I was like, okay, like, do I put an airplane on top of a keycap? You know, like, what do you do with an airplane? Started playing with some other ideas, like maybe the propeller, like, you know, it's really cool to be able to like hyper focus and like come up with an idea and like execute it. And like the first couple concepts failed. Like we didn't really like it. They didn't really like it that much. And I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. And like what we ended up going with is like a jet engine turbine. Let me grab one.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain that was like a shower thought. Like it was like I was just thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I got to show him something soon. You know, I got to think of what to do.
Right.
Like, and then I was like, maybe a jet engine, because it kind of has like that. Sometimes they're like more oval and kind of chunky, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's a little bit easier to the finger clicking on too.
Yeah, and like the resolve, like when you design keycaps, you have to bring them back to square at the bottom. So like no matter what you're doing on top, it's got to come back down to a square 99% of the time. So let me, I got the actually let's do, I'm gonna switch to my other camera because it's cooler, and I think this is a really fun design. So I'm gonna drop into my top-down camera.
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
You guys don't have to change anything on your end.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So this is the Flight Simulator keycap. So we got their logo, which I didn't even know they had until I found them on Twitter. And here's the bottom, which has the stem. And this is where like learning how to be an engineer kind of came into be, where I was like, okay, well, I can't just like have it be there. It needs to like move, right? So, so it actually spins.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So if you have one of those like air compressors.
Yeah. It's real fast. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. I can't see myself. And
Yeah. No, it was good. That last one you just did, you could see it spinning.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, and then we had to go and paint the little corkscrew on the top. And so, yeah, in ZBrush, I had to like design this little turbine. And I'm going to go back to my face cam now.
Sure.
There you go. In ZBrush, I had to like design the turbine and then part it out and, make it move and space everything. And the tolerances that you start dealing with when you're working on this scale is like, things have to be within 0.1 millimeter of tolerance, or else it's like way too big. And then you move it like 0.5, 0.01 millimeter down, and you're like, oh, now it's too tight. And then it's just, it becomes a lot. So it's a learning process. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions, anyone? I guess.
I think I've been throwing them at you as we've been going from them. So, but yeah, go ahead. People keep throwing in any questions that you might have. I'll grab what I can and toss them to Robert to answer for you. So you're strictly obviously just only digital, and you're pretty much everything in ZBrush for the most part.
Yeah, there's times where I'll go back to Maya and block stuff out. I use that as my tool to kind of set, say, like the size of the keycap is 18 millimeters is like your maximum of where you can fit on a keyboard. Anything over 18 millimeter has the chance of hitting something else, whether the keyboard is like really tight around the keycap or you might hit another keycap. So sometimes I need a set like this is 2 millimeters or any kind of spacing. I'll make those in Maya. So I have real world scale objects that I'll import into ZBrush to use as like measure tools.
So at this point, have you gotten to where now you just have, in essence, like in the toy world, right? They have just here's your base one because it's all the same keys in essence.
Yeah.
On the keyboards, you're at that point now.
Yeah, there's a couple like templated things that I have. So let me see. Solo that. This is a modified version of the underside of a keycap. I'm going to go to a different design that shows it. Here's our Among Us character with his face off. There you go. So this guy here is our what I call a template. So this is the scoop on the underside of a keycap that gets cut out that allows the switch of the keyboard to sort of go up inside of it. And so I use this as basically a Boolean to set the size of the keycap. So as long as whatever I'm making more or less fits on top of this object, we're in a good place. So when I turn on that live Boolean, you can see it just cut away. And so,
nice. Yeah.
So everything is templated when it comes to like how it fits. Part of the journey was not just designing the keycap. If you were to say that's the easy part, the harder part is, so you have a switch, which I'm holding up on camera here.
Hold on, let me make that camera bigger. There you go.
So this is if anyone doesn't know, these are keycap switches. So sometimes they click, sometimes they don't click. Yeah, sometimes nice and silent. Really depends on what you want. And so you can see the shape of them have like certain angles. So you want to make sure your keycap can go like over that, on all edges. And then so the next part of that is, okay, how do I interface with that switch? So if you go back in time to when Clackeys first started, we used to 3D print what I call stems. So these are a stem. And basically it has a little cross section in the center, and that would fit on your switch like so. And now all my keycaps fit on top of this object. So
right, so that's that little part you had at the top of your
so that little cutout that you saw in ZBrush mates with this one here. We use my favorite glue, Gorilla Glue, if anybody wants to know. The best stuff on earth. It's clear. dries we like to let it dry for a whole day, but it dries in a few hours. Slow drying is good. But anyways, so the journey of this object is probably the hardest part of the entire company, which is so funny that everything relies on this. So what you're looking at here is a injected molded polycarbonate stem. I designed this in Fusion 360. From the very, very first keycap that we ever made, used to have the keycap stem built in. Downside with this is if that part breaks, you're SOL. So my first part of the journey of learning that 3D printed resins, while are fantastic in many ways, they tend to be brittle versus casted resins. So after that learning experience, I switched over to 3D printing my stems in the durable resin, as I mentioned in the beginning of the stream. So that was phase 2. So I used to have one Form 2 with durable resin, just printing stems 24/7.
Right.
And I did that for years, like 2 years straight. That thing was printing stems.
Wow.
And it was pretty good. That's when you learn a lot about tolerances, and even printers tend to lose tolerances over time. Like you'll print a row of stems, and in a month or two, you'll print them again, and they'll be too loose. They'll change. It's like literally, 0.01 millimeter change can make that entire fit not great. It'll just slide off and fly off and stuff. So,
and
a lot of hardship.
Someone asked, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have a STL that you've shared with the community or anybody if they wanted to go make their own, or is that something?
An STL of like this part here?
Yeah, like the base, so that I think what he's looking for is a blank STL you can share with them that they can go and make their own keys too if they wanted to.
We don't have one, but what I did when I didn't have one either is I went to like, I guess it's like Thingiverse or like one of those kind of 3D print thing. If you can find the STLs of the switches,
okay,
and then you can build your own on top of it. And so these are like, I forget the exact size, but what I always have handy that I always lose is a pair of calipers.
Yeah.
I have probably like 8 of them in the studio. And like I said, I can't find one now. So, but basically in 3D, if you have the file, you can also look up the dimensions online. But the best way to do it is model that little cross section and then make the negative of that. So now we work with a company called Signature Plastics. They're based up in Washington, and we paid the multiple thousands of dollars to have a mold made in metal, I guess. I don't know. And then now they injection mold our stems for us. Yeah. We bought like a bag of like 10,000 out there on the floor.
Yeah, they're probably doing in metal so that they can get more pulls, more casts from it.
So
possibly, I don't. Maybe they could be using silicone, but it would make sense to do metal.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it was expensive, so I'm pretty sure it's.
Then it's probably metal. Then it's probably metal. Yeah, it's probably metal.
And so now that we have polycarbonate stems, these things are like nearly indestructible. So we went from this journey of stems can break, stems are better, but then they kind of get looser, and it's just a nightmare printing them all the time too. Now we can afford to pay for this stupid little thing.
Right. Yeah, it's part of your journey. You start off that, and then you've kept building and building them, and now you're at 10 employees.
Yeah, exactly. So all of our keycaps have this system in place, and then it kind of stemmed from this idea that one, I like the fact that the stems get put in later because it allows you to be more flexible with your design. For example, the stems are clear. If they're part of the sculpt, then if your sculpt isn't clear, the stem's not clear. So that was my first sort of thought behind why we make a clear stem, is that clear stem means that things can be clear and allow for like light to shine.
The light, take advantage of the light from the board itself. Yeah.
This is one of my really old designs, what we call the uncertain key. Again, I love my puns. And so this is like this is an older version of that model, I believe. I don't think that's the CAD file, but if you have pretty basic modeling skills, you can model this out and design your own. So the build of this is, again, that one templated guy, and he's invisible, but it's this thing. So this does the cut of the bottom of the keycap, and then once that's on, you have your keycap itself, and we throw our logo inside there. And then this is the other part of that tool, is the little question mark, the bottom of it, and then this is the question mark. So you get multiple pieces kind of like stacked together to build this.
Right.
And so again, if this bottom piece wasn't clear, then that wouldn't be clear, and then you wouldn't get like cool shine through stuff.
Right. Yeah. I saw a lot of your images you have on your Instagram and your page had some light shining through some of your keys.
Yeah, and let's see. Yeah, so we're gonna jump over to this one. I'm gonna hide. So this is our. It's kind of like a hybrid fan art piece. A little bit of like PUBG fan versus Full Metal Jacket. And so we have like a visor that is movable. Again, when I started designing keycaps, I wasn't really interested in simplicity, probably regrettably. But I like to overcomplicate things, I think, naturally, but it yields something different, I guess. And so again, he has like clear eyes through the skull, clear stem gets put in the back, we get the RGB shine through. This piece used to be 3D printed by itself in clear resin. All of these would be opaque resin, and then you would get the. I actually have one. If I'm gonna switch, you guys don't have. If you put my full screen up.
Yep.
I'll show top down. I think these things are way. I mean, you can photograph them all you want, but to be honest, they're like way more interesting, like when you actually like see them in person. So, or like at least in motion, I think is the big thing. Right. So there's the clear visor, and it opens and everything gets hand painted. And you're asking about like what's directly 3D printed versus cast. So this was still a piece that everything here was directly 3D printed. So, and the details are pretty astounding in my opinion.
And you're snapping in the clear visor.
Yeah.
From the back or from.
So the visor actually goes in the front.
Okay.
Goes in this down or insert that way, and then we learned actually pretty recently, if you coat the top of it. I don't know if you've ever played with clear 3D printed resins, but
yes,
it's never that clear, right? No. So if you coat that 3D printed resin with either UV resin or 2-part clear resin epoxy in thin layers, you can actually get like pretty optically clear stuff. So like you can really see through.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. It's not focusing.
It's a little blurry. It's hard to keep my camera from focusing, but you can see my hand. There you go.
Yeah, your hand looks great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, and then we write on the keycaps. So this one says born to KILL. And then we kind of ran with that theme with some other designs and did this whole.
Yeah, that was focusing when you had it down there. It was focusing.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's that keycap.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having more fun with it, putting stuff in motion too.
It is a lot of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, big on the templating, like anything that you can use to like reuse and save yourself energy. And like once you figure out sizing and stuff like that, you keep it and you just run with it, because there's so many other obstacles that you're gonna have to deal with when kind of, I guess, venturing into uncharted territory of starting a small business with ZBrush. What is your most successful key
that the biggest one that you sell the most of?
So our most successful one is the Apollo. So I'm going to open up that right now.
Oh yeah. This is these are your design, right? These are the ones you're saying you were.
Yeah. So part of the story of like how Clackeys happened is like I was streaming. Well, I would say not how they happened, but how we got to that next tier and started like, okay, we need to actually like hire someone and expand. Because I was building this Apollo design. Actually, the big file. While that's loading, I'm going to show you guys the actual keycap first.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to the ZBrush. So these are a couple versions of the Apollo keycap.
Hold on, that's me. Okay, now go.
There we go. So I don't have the white one on me, but the Apollo keycap is a fully like functional.
Oh, nice.
Keycap.
Yeah.
The visor opens and closes.
Right.
And the what we call the moon inside on this one is like removable. So I like to use sticky, so you can take it out. So you can see it has a magnet inside.
And it's an earth magnet. You know, I would assume.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not a space magnet.
No. Well, they call them earth magnets. They're pretty strong, like an N52 or.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is whatever magnet that was the size I could find on Amazon.
Right.
Yeah. So they're magnetic. The visors are like removable, so you can change out like the visor.
So how are you making it pop into place? You're just having it clip in and then just popping.
Let's see if I can really show you guys.
There you go.
See that little bump?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the little nub that kind of catches. There's a little spot inside the keycap that it rests in. So yeah. And then from this base design that we did,
you're out of frame yet.
Yeah.
Forward. More forward. You're getting there.
I'm just trying to put it back, but
yeah.
It's not perfect, but it works well.
Yeah, but it's cool. Again, you're putting a little more interaction with the keys.
So cool. From that design, we kind of built on top of it to do like what we call our collabs. So in the keyboard market, there's people who make full keycap sets. So I think, let me show you a great example of a full keycap set to build on this story. So I don't know if you guys recognize this. You recognize what that guy is?
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So this is a Breaking Bad full keycap set. So keycap set just really means your normal keycaps that exist that sit on your keyboard. So it's like your basic, these are all injection molded keys with specialty icons.
And you're making the keyboards now, right? Too. You're not just doing the keycaps now, right?
We're like, I would say yes, but like we're working with people who design them. So we're sort of orchestrating the entire process, but like we're not physically manufacturing them. We are like designing the actual keycap sets with another designer. We also have some going on in-house. So that's part of the end, like the target of the journey of what Clackeys has always been. But the idea is that when someone goes and designs a keycap set, sometimes we reach out to them and be like, okay, can we make an artisan that like fits the theme of your keycap set? And so we took this one, which is a cat version, like meow cat, So we gave them little ears. And inside this is actually the wrong insert. You can see on our website, but it has like a yarn ball inside, like a cat.
Yep. Makes sense.
And let's see here. I'll put that back down there. So I'll just show you the actual model of it. So this is the key cap itself, with some of the parts turned off.
Do you wait, Robert? Do you have more than one microphone? in there?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's using a different microphone.
All right. How about now?
No, because I noticed that when you turn your head, when you got to the other desk, your voice got louder. At the
Okay.
other
Yeah,
desk.
I do have one on that corner just in case I roll over there.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's the one that's being used.
Okay.
Because then when you went face the other way, your voice starts going down more.
Yeah. This one here requires me to be really close.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, this is our Apollo Space Cat. So I guess to talk about that journey a little bit is that when this design was finished, I finished it on stream. The sale went really well, like better than I could ever thought of. I think I just accidentally hyped it up and marketed it for a really long time of like, hey, here's the whole process and the journey. And it's like, okay, guys, they're now available. So it was what allowed me to sort of jump into the next tier of like needing people to help me paint and build and start that process.
And it's are you finding people are swapping these out? Because obviously making that head pop out magnet, people are like in essence making their own, buying parts and making different versions of it.
Yeah. Like I do see like people switching it up a little bit. That's kind of the reason why I made it modular, is that I always really love the idea that, if there's a time and place where I could sit down and design more stuff for the inside of this cap, we would be able to have that as an offering. So it was more like thinking future, like if this becomes our design that is sort of core to Clackeys as an iconic theme, like we'll have different objects that go inside. So that's the yarn ball, and like the original one was a moon. So there's like the moon, and the other one was like a smooth surface that has like a really cool pearlescent glitter type effect on it. And yeah, so like, getting back to like the tolerances of stuff, like we had to, so like, measure out a 1x4mm magnet, right? And then so like you print that out, or like the negative of that out inside the moon. And then, like, okay, the magnet's too tight, like maybe you make it a little bit bigger. Oh, now it falls out. So like, you really have to like, even though you set the dimension that you want in Maya and in ZBrush and you print it out of what you think it is, if it's off by 0.1mm, it's off too much. So it is a lot of back and forth to really dial that stuff in. But that's
and then you're gorilla gluing the magnet to the.
Yeah, so this one was we got lucky that you put the magnet in and then the stem goes on top of it to hold that in, that little clear stem. So it's not visualized in this particular model, but essentially this little cutout down here, it's like this edge here is the same one. It's actually what I call the half stem. So this one got a special one. It's like half the height of the normal one. Okay. And that's because we needed space for the visor to like
have movement.
The animation is not perfect, but I had to basically specially design this keycap so that the visor has space to come down below that area. And if I use that full square of the switch that I showed, it would hit that corner. So I was like, okay, so now we have manufactured the full size and the half size. And then we ended up using the half size on the Halo keycap. Where are you? Yeah, there's the half size. So you can kind of see it's like, the circle in the middle is more or less where that cross section stem is going to go. And then, and the reason for this is that if this cutout here went all the way forward, it would clip into the front of this mask. So we're pretty fortunate that this templated stem like allows us a little bit more flexibility with like designing a keycap. The Apollo was also the first keycap that we kind of put together fiber optics. So the last sort of crazy idea that I also managed to stumble upon was these tubes here, these holes here, are exactly like this, the size of like a 1 or 2 millimeter fiber optic plastic coil cable. I don't know, that I bought on Amazon. You can buy like a roll of it. And so when we learned that I say we, but it was just me at the time, I guess. When you feed that in here, and then it pops out down here in these holes, it brings the light from your computer keyboard to the front. So you get that glow like the lights up here. So these like actually glow because there's not a lot of light transmission through the rest of the keycap. So getting those to like really go and kind of be light up is pretty wild.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I really threw like anything that I could at this keycap to make it like different and interesting, and super challenging. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Very cool piece.
Yeah. So the I mean, everyone loves Halo, probably.
Yep.
I mean, it's a big franchise. So it like I've never been a Halo gamer, but like it still takes me back to like I remember my cousin getting his Xbox, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before in a shooter. So like it definitely has like a nostalgic tone for me. But so being able to work on like a Master Chief official keycap was awesome. We got to do they were nice enough. They supplied us with the model itself, which is great when you're working with the actual like company. You know, you get access to stuff that you would otherwise have to make yourself. So.
So this is the actual Master Chief they're using in the game itself?
Yeah, or like, yeah, probably. Or like maybe a cinematic model, I'm not sure. I mean, the detail level was pretty high. A lot of this stuff got Dynamesh down and kind of resolved into a little bit lower like detail, but all this stuff is there. So
yeah, for this scenario, when you were making the design, you guys were doing the rock parts, but Master Chief helmet itself was just straight from Microsoft.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, they give you this helmet that's like hollow inside and not 3D print ready at all. So a lot of the work is just preparing this model to be closed. You know, closing up all these holes and kind of rebuilding it. One of the challenges with this one is that we wanted to part it out in a way that like made it easy to paint. So the visor became its own like little piece because it's like that hardcore gold. That like rose red gold color, and then so in order to get this piece in and like inside here without breaking anything, the top of the helmet came off, more or less like that, and then these were all painted together. So you know, the end product was three parts that kind of went through the process of being primed, airbrushed, and then hand painted to bring you. Let's see, I have one. If you guys want to see it, I have it on a keyboard over here. So I'm going to show you guys on my.
Okay.
Settings. I'm going to board.
Yeah. Nice. And then you've got, I saw that you made the logo have light be able to shine through it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's just like hollow or like empty. So you could definitely, whenever light does come through, it's transparent. And so, yeah, you know, all of the.
Yeah. How many of these did you have to make?
We did. Well, I don't think it says, I can't tell, but we did 200 of every design.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
and then when you're doing these designs, someone was asking, do you do some drawing concepts, or you go straight into ZBrush and just start sculpting?
you know, I've never been much of a 2D sketcher designer. So sometimes I'll sit down and doodle something. When we were working with Team Liquid to do some of their mascot Blue, I did some like really loose stuff. We did a Cloud9 keycap. I'm just gonna hold it up on my normal camera. We did a Cloud9 keycap that has like 8 layers.
There you go. Wait, hold on. Let me put your camera. There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
So it has like these kind of elevation layers for the Cloud9 keycap. This is just a prototype for it. So I did like basic sketches of this stuff, but you know what? ZBrush is like so fast to block out ideas and kind of kit bash that I tend to. It might sound cheesy, but I kind of design in my head. I start thinking about what I want to do with something, and my mind just kind of goes wild, like, oh, maybe that or that. And then I just go try it and see if it works in 3D. I try to do it really fast. So when I do some of these designs at the early stages, I'll just make like a really crappy version of what the idea is and print it out and see if it like fits or if it looks good at like certain angles. Because a lot of the times when you design keycaps, you really want to think about how people are going to look at it. This is Dusa from Hades. This is another model that they were nice enough to supply us with the base model. And then I had to take the snakes and kind of wrap them in a kind of a crazy way to make it turn into a keycap.
You got some big undercutting in the mouse there too. Yeah, so that's nice for the printing.
Yeah, this is one of those things where like you really couldn't cast this because all of these teeth and like, I mean, look at that gap on the tongue. Like your mold would just rip apart when you pulled this out. So, you know, when you're designing, and this is a case where it's like, you know, design, have fun, like don't worry about the limitations of casting because we can just print it, you know.
What have you found your tolerances for these? Like the tongue, like are you finding you got to be at least 1.5 millimeters?
Yeah. 1 millimeter is like the smallest I should make anything that's like, say, like sticking out or like free floating. 2 is better. Yeah.
Yeah.
1.5 is like a good in between.
Right.
Yeah,
that's so important for all you people watching. Want to print something at this scale and stuff. Having that minimal tolerance is important for when you're making.
Yeah.
So it changes your design a little bit sometimes.
It does. I mean, like there's things like this, or like this tongue. I don't think we had any. So this tongue used to be a little thinner, and you know we just hit it with I hit it with the inflate a little bit, just to chunkify it a little bit. Like you'll never notice that it's bigger because when I'm looking at this thing, I'm on a 32 inch 4K monitor. This thing is as big as my head, you know, when I look at this thing. But when I look at it, when I have it in person, and I think this is my favorite finished design. So there's the final paint job. God, that's like so hard to track. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
So yeah, so we have these glassy eyes. I think this one is like a bee stock because I think it has a broken something on it. Oh yeah, she's missing a tooth. Yeah, but the
and those eyes are there. Is it clear that the light's going to come through, or is it just?
Yeah. Let me.
It's going to come through.
This is the coolest part about this character. We're able to add like parallax to the.
Yeah.
So you see the black dots in there?
Yep. Yeah.
So they like follow you. And so I'll show you guys how I did that. So when you have a clear sphere so just notice her eyes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it looks better on our website. If you go to our website, you can see the animation of it. Let me go back to ZBrush here. Actually, I'll just leave that on the screen. That's cool.
Oh, you want to go back to webcam?
No, I'm going to leave it on camera. So
okay.
you will see the keycap and then the 3D keycap.
Right.
Which is fun.
Yep.
So if you have like a clear object, this is more or less what our eyes look like. They're 3D printed. And then if you paint like on the back side of this, like with a Sharpie or a paintbrush, like a black line, and then the rest of this is clear. When you look straight at it, the black line will be further away than the top of the dome. And so what happens is that when you turn that object left and right, you get this like parallaxing, like always looking at you effect, which, it's like it's a happy accident, right? Bob Ross moment. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is doing it. So, when I put these little like divots, and guys, I don't know, like, I don't want to say like my entire career for the last 6 years is thankful for one tool like ZBrush, which it is. But even what's more insane about that is that I don't think I can do anything that I'm doing now without live Boolean. So like you were to like thank ZBrush for what you're able to achieve, but one step further and insane about it is that the live Boolean tool is like beyond explainably helpful. Like, yeah, so
the game changer for a lot of people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a game changer. Like,
yeah,
I know that every toy maker ever that is doing stuff in ZBrush is using live Boolean. So, but anyway, live Boolean for everything. You can see my list of tools on the right-hand side of like all the different parts to generate these objects. And
so for merging these, are you now just using live Booleans, or are you still using the Dynamesh way to do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I really push it, there's sometimes like I'll get an error in live Boolean. So sometimes I'll like Dynamesh stuff together first and then live Boolean it together, or Dynamesh it as one object, save that out, and then like undo, and then keep all my different parts. But it only happens with like really, really high res stuff that maybe even have really bad geometry, but pretty much everything lives as live Boolean. And I use this Shift M, these little drop downs when you set like,
the start
what do you
group.
call these?
Start group.
Subgroups. Yeah, make subgroups. So when you make a subgroup, you get the ability to extract different parts. So when you look at this subtool list, there's 24 tools, 24 parts in here. And then when you make Boolean, it's going to kick out, this one is going to be like 2 pieces, I think. Yeah. So then this is our final piece, and this is what you get. Now, there are times where like I'll take this mesh, I'll group everything together, and then I'll Dynamesh it together. The Formlab software is very lenient with like what you can 3D print. So I've almost never had an issue with just sending something like this to the printer. When you do hard surface stuff, this is actually more a useful tip, I think, when you go and do, if you were to do, when you take off this one, make our live Boolean, let's see if that works. Because the geometry for like the base cap is so low res, and the Boolean, the mesh that it kicks out from the Boolean is like pretty garbagey. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
Triangulation.
Right?
Yeah,
not very clean. So when you go throw this in a renderer, sometimes you get like these weird artifacts. I know Keyshot is kind of sometimes not very happy with like these super long triangles. You'll see them in really reflective surfaces. So like I'll go and just Dynamesh this whole thing together as one piece, and that will just unify all the geometry. But again, that's usually, usually I can just send something like this directly to the printer. Yes.
Yeah, I've never really ran into anything crazy myself with their software. It couldn't print. And then they also have the fixing mesh built into their.
Yeah, like it auto fixes everything. Yeah, like it's super. It's very good. As opposed to you've done printing with your other printer and like using other software, right? And it's a little bit more picky, I think, especially when you combine like if you just take 2 cubes and like put them together and just hit print on those printers, it doesn't really handle that just 2 intersecting bodies very well. So I find like with Acura, I think like I'll end up dynameshing stuff together to make sure that it creates at least one kind of uniform body of geometry.
Do you crowdfund any of your series?
So kinda, not really, but I guess we have a term in the keyboard industry that. Oh, hey, I found my calipers. There you go.
There you go.
And pro tip, guys, don't buy the cheap $20 like falls apart, the battery dies. Buy a metal one. Buy a metal one. You never have to change the batteries. And it doesn't tell you exactly how accurate it is down to like the decimals, but for the stuff that I've done, this has been like very, very helpful to have like a nice metal one that you can just quickly measure your sizes.
Yeah, I think that's a must-have tool if you're getting into stuff like this with 3D printing and things like that. I pull mine out all the time when I'm 3D printing, checking sizes and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny once you have it, you see how much you end up using it. Like, I don't need that, and then you get it, and you're like, wow, this is actually super useful to have this.
Yeah.
So kind of you crowdfund when.
Oh yeah, crowdfunding. Yeah, so we have a term called a group buy, which is I don't know if you were to like Urban Dictionary or just like look it up like what it actually means, but what I understand, it's basically a pre-order system. But it's like I feel like pre-order has like a stigma of like you pre-order it today and maybe you'll get it in like a month or something. But group buy is like you'll buy it now and you might get it in 3 months or you might get it in a year. And basically it is a way to crowdfund directly, I guess you would say, without going through like Kickstarter, and it's like much faster. And so we're able to say pre-sell and find out the volume of keycaps that we need to make beforehand, and then we go to town, we make them, and it's you really only know the struggles that you're going to get into after you promise somebody or not somebody, but like a community of like, yeah, I'm going to make you guys 1,000 of these. And then you're like, okay, how am I going to make 1,000 of these? Yeah. And then you realize you need to like hire people, get more space, buy more printers, buy way more paint than you ever thought you would need to do. You learned like, 2 months into production that like all the sizes were off, or it's super brittle and all of them are breaking now, or like, I don't know. There's just like, there's a laundry list of learning that you do through that journey. And so,
yeah. And then for this chainmail, did you use micropoly? Did you use nanomesh?
I believe I used the nanomesh.
You've been using the nanomesh?
Yeah. So yeah, basically I had this surface here. I used like a basic plane, divided it, and then like used the cloth. I mean, I really apologize to everyone. I know like the sculpts that we're looking at are not that fancy and they're really that impressive in ZBrush. But it's also a completely different scale that we work at too. So, but like, it's crazy when you look at something on screen and then you get to hold it. I think there's nothing like it. So
yeah,
as anyone
I think they're really cool. I wouldn't say that they're not don't have like this is cool. We all like seeing this
Yeah.
stuff, how people working. And again, that's why we wanted you to do this stream too, to show people. That's the point of these streams. So look, there's many ways to use ZBrush, right?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
really what we're trying to do over here and show people, artists like yourself, and what you've done. And like this whole conversation, you've started with just you, and then learning to paint till midnight, and then now you've built a company where you got 10 employees.
So
There's people chiming in saying, for an engineering point of view, these are very impressive. So
awesome. Not an engineer, so
let me switch to your camera. Hold on.
Yeah, I just want to show like the as a low quality camera, but you know the resolve is that the final version of this cap you can actually see under high definition like each little link. So under the process I printed out like varying scales of the chain. Like some look too big and cartoony, some look too small where you couldn't see the detail. So this one resolved just enough to, again, you can see this at our website. If you go to Clackeys.com and go to the Microsoft on the banner, you'd see like the close-up of the print. But yeah,
let me share.
This is one of those things where like the Skyrim team, like they're like, here's our helmet, make a keycap. And I'm like, okay, let's figure that out. And so that one came relatively quick. The Age of Empires keycap. So I really love this set of keycaps because it's kind of like a chance to do what I think I do best, is kind of come up with crazy ideas that what make a good keycap. And so, the Age of Empires team gave us the castle, and I was like, okay, but that's just the castle. Like, how do I make it, Age of Empires?
Right.
And so like, this is 4/4. There's like the gold logo, and like I hand sculpted all the brickwork, and there's like a lot of relief. And we actually put like modeling grass like back here. It's like overgrown a little bit inside there. So
yeah, I put your link to his website, Clackeys, in the chat, everybody.
Yeah.
So you can find the stuff as he was talking on their website as well.
And so, I guess like we started off doing artisans keycaps, but to me, it's kind of like that gateway drug of like, yeah, are you just going to be like this keycap maker guy for like your entire life? Like, what are you doing? And like, what's your actual game plan here? So when I figured this out like a year or two ago, is that my goal with this whole thing is to take like fandom and bring it to the desk space. So we've got a trademark like in pending right now. The whole thing is art for your desk space. And so that's the goal, is that taking things that we love and then creating a new product category of entertainment based things that would like outfit your keyboard, your desk mat, the keyboard itself. And I mean, those are the main products that we're really focusing on: desk mat, keycaps, keyboard. And so we're fortunate enough now we have licenses with Hasbro, which is also the owner of like Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So we're doing. We have the opportunity now that we're kind of like 6 months in of actually working like every day on this stuff, but we're able to like officially now make Transformers keycaps and artisans that are official artisans and desk mats, and we're making Magic stuff too, and those are the two licenses. We have 4 licenses, but those are the 2 main ones. We have Scrabble and another one that we're working on, just to kind of like really bring that to the forefront. Some of the other partners that we're working with are for some like Marvel keycaps. We've done a lot of game stuff. I'm probably forgetting some. So it's all been part of the journey of like either collaborating with someone who owns a license or someone who has their own IP that you can make something for. And this whole journey has been the transition from making fan art to official art, and then trying to bring that into a place where everyone can kind of enjoy the fandom.
Nice. Yeah, and then again, someone was asking about the managing supports and orientation for 3D printing. You're just putting them pretty much probably what, like a 20-degree angle, 10-degree angle, and then just all the supports are on the bottom.
Yeah. So if you were to like grab a keycap here, I'll just take this one. So if this is like, here we go. If that green part's your build plate, and that's I would say somewhere around there. That's your angle. So yeah. You end up with a support here at the very beginning, and then along the edge, and then you have some upside in this corner here. But at the end of the day, you can just tear them all off and then sand them down. Yeah, and there's no cleanup, more or less, on like the sides, or if there's any actual details. So again, with this one here, so even with an overhang like this, so you have to really do it keycap by keycap. But if this was being printed, I wouldn't do it like this, because then all the supports would be on the teeth and they break off. So you have to do it like that, and give it symmetry. There you go, something like that. So you get lucky enough that like the teeth are touching, so they help build on those layers above them.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yep. And this is all stuff that I learned a long time ago when I just started 3D printing my own sculpts and characters. For myself, we did one for like crew gift for How to Train Your Dragon. That was cool.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the more you print, the more you get to find the little tricks and stuff that make the printing. And then, in all fairness, you're saving on material too. The less supports you need, the more material you're saving as well. In this case, for a form lab sprayer.
So we're actively we're casting keycaps now when they can be, and then and we're 3D printing them when they have to be. I guess that would be like that line.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Awesome. I think any other questions from anybody coming through? I think I got all the ones coming through from everybody, but if I left one or forgot one, go ahead, throw it at us. I think you've gotten through everything you wanted to share, right, Robert?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's not a super heavy like technical and ZBrush stream, but everything starts here, and everything lives here. So it's I think I do have one tip that I want to share with people about when you're creating all your parts and stuff. There's a lot of times where you have to use one shape to cut out another and sort of dig out a hole. So this is the hole that is used for these pegs here. And so a really good way to do that is that if you have an object that is going to interface with another one, and they're going to say stick through. Let me actually do one time here. Go back to where it's not in the wrong spot. There we go. We want the helmet down here for whatever reason, and that's where it's going to live. And you have sort of those pieces injecting into there. One thing that I really like to do is to dynamesh the model that's going to be your subtraction shape before using it as a tool to cut anything away. And so what I would end up doing is that if I want these two pieces to create a notch like that, I would duplicate this tool. I would move it down, and then I would hide the original, and then I'm going to hide that one up there. And then this is my negative shape that it would be. So that's the hole you would get. And you can see the difference in size already of what it needs to be versus what you get automatically. And so maybe Paul has like more expertise in what these numbers actually mean. But if this was like a hand modeled piece of geometry that had like tight edge loops, when you go and use the inflate tool, sometimes those edge loops just like start going all over the place. So I'll always Dynamesh my model like pretty low res to give it like a really even topology. So that way, when we scroll down here and go to the deform menu and inflate, you get a better like spherical inflation effect that can like cut away the geometry inside. And so when I end up doing there you go. When you end up doing the inflate tool.
Do you have a number that you found that you just do all the time, like inflate a 4, inflate a 5?
On keycaps, I'm usually doing 8. Yeah. So that, and in this case, it probably does. Oh, it looks pretty close.
Look at that! Nailed it!
Oh,
nailed it!
Not scripted, guys. Not scripted. I promise.
Nailed it live.
Nailed it live. Yeah. So yeah, 8 is kind of my go-to. And honestly, sometimes it's not enough, but 8 is usually a good place. But I don't know if that number is scene dependent, like scale dependent. Like if you have a bigger mesh that you're working on, like say you're putting 2 objects together that are like 10 millimeters, 8 maybe like not enough. Like that would be like this much. But 8 on this scale, this thing's 18 millimeters in width and depth. 8 is like a really good number. So yeah.
Yeah, the physical size of the object will definitely play a role in that. I found though, or you're in the same boat, and some of the bigger stuff I printed, like an inflate of 5 or 6, has worked for me fine.
Yeah,
I've gotten enough tolerance to put the pieces together.
The smaller the pieces that you're going to be printing that need to connect, the more you need to inflate that number and give it more space to catch, because at one point you're dealing with surfaces that are so small to sort of come together that is like on the getting to the point where the printer can't even, it doesn't know the difference between 0.001 millimeter and 0.002 millimeter. To the printer at its accuracy of the laser and the moving parts, it's the same. So you have to go further than that distance to kind of say, 0.001 millimeter versus 0.005 millimeter. And that's enough room to really give the printer information, I guess you would say, to say these parts fit together and give you enough of a hold. Because, so if you really start getting down to like the decimals of inflation or parts that fit, which we do sometimes, you really have to like become giant.
Yeah. So a couple questions came through for you. I'll start with the first one from Mark. Are you going to try for the sculpt off again this year?
Oh, good question.
If we have it.
I invited.
Well, it's open to anybody now. The last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just apply.
Anybody can sculpt and then sculpt off now.
That's
what we've done at least the last 2 years.
Is it in person? Is it in person?
We haven't announced anything like that, but the only thing I can tell you is you probably want to follow our social medias.
Oh, yes. What's your social media, Paul? What is it again?
Not mine, but
the company.
Yeah,
what is it?
It's still Pixelogic except for Instagram. Instagram is Maxon ZBrush.
Okay. Nice.
But any one of those, the Facebook or the Instagram, we'll have announcements. Or if you applied in a newsletter, we'll obviously announce stuff like that in a newsletter too. So if you go applied already, so there will be stuff coming down the pipeline for that, for sure. The other question came through: do you sell your own designs?
Yeah. I mean, so like we have.
Well, the Apollo was your own design.
The Apollo,
your most popular one.
You'll notice, like on our website, pretty much everything is always sold out because we do operate in this like group buy, pre-order and then fulfill, and then we usually make extras and then sell the extras and then do it again and again and again. And that's just because we're small, and most of our business is from like business to business and working with collaborators. So
do you have a Facebook group or a Discord channel?
yeah, we have a Discord, discord.gg/Clackeys. Yeah, we have our, everyone go, join us. If you're not in there.
It's on their website. If you go to their website, I'll put the website.
Clackeys.com.
It's in the top corner, right corner of their website. Here, let me share that again. There's their website. If you go to the top right corner by the their help and their cart, their bag, it's right there.
Yeah, we have the Discord. Everything's at Clackeys, so you cannot find us.
And then another question: how much print testing do you do per cap to ensure it will work before you go to the mass produce?
On designs that we've already vetted, we probably instantly start printing, but I would say most of the time, I mean, I'm pretty good at my job now, so usually it's like twice at max, like 1, 2, and it's good to go, and then just go to town. The more complex that part of the keycap gets of like moving parts, usually the more times we print it out to make sure it fits. You know, resin is weird. I mean, like, it changes size on you. It can become brittle over time. So you might think, oh, this is good. And then in like a week, you go and try to use it and it snaps. And because the, little part, whatever you were working with is just too thin. Or, those layer lines on a printer, even though you can't see them usually on like our SLA prints, they're still there. And so those can become break lines. Like you can actually break it along that layer if it's not a good adhesion, I guess, between that. If you like over soak stuff in IPA for the cleaning, you can make your parts too brittle. So you might accidentally do that. You might let sun get to it. So that's all the 3D printing stuff that just is kind of annoying, but it's there. And so, yeah, there's things that you can't just rush through and discover, like, even if you print one and you're like, oh, it's perfect. So sometimes there's a case where you'll end up going into production. You're already like 50 or 60 keycaps deep, and then you'll learn something is bad. And so you like that's the best thing. That's the best thing about printers is that if you were to like pay for a mold and have it tooled and injection molded, and then they're like, oops,
right.
And then like, oh, there goes another 20 grand. Yeah. Like we don't have that issue. We might have a loss of, say, the first 50 keycaps that we printed. But at the end of the day, we can adjust our design and get going right away. So
right. And then they're not huge, so you're not wasting a lot of resin.
You're not.
Through that. So how many keycaps, do you know how many keycaps you get per liter? Have you ever looked at that?
That's a good question. It's been a while since I ran that calculation, but
I was just wondering.
I think it's
0.04 millimeters. That'd be probably more.
I think it's like between 2 and 500, I think, is the amount for a liter of resin.
Okay. Yeah,
it really depends on like the thickness of the cap, like how much. Like this one's pretty dense, like in the helmet area. Some stuff is like pretty thin. I think I resolved it down to like between 30 and 50 cents a keycap in like raw material. So yeah.
And the good segue question, especially with this model, they asked, aren't those wood cracks too thin? So you said, well, you've learned. How did you know how deep to make those wood cracks for you to make sure they actually are going to print out? What are you doing?
So I don't know if it was this design or probably a previous one, but what I usually end up doing is I'll print out one, I'll hand paint it, and that is the point of where I'll judge of like, oh, it's too hard to paint because those details are too small, or they're not deep enough, or they're not sharp enough, or whatever the case may be. So the best way to vet your design is you got to go through the whole process of sculpting it, printing it, painting it, using it, and then you're like, okay, that's good to go. I think this is probably a design I did in 2017, I believe, maybe 2018. I would assume, just based on my skill level then and where it's at now, like I probably did make this design with those wood panels like not deep enough. And then what I'll do is I'll suffer and I'll paint it, and it's like, it sucks. I'll still do something like, you know, photograph it and get it ready, and then I'll go back to the drawing board and fix it to make it myself easier for like the mass production. So there's definitely like a learning curve, and these particular ones, no, they're not too thin. On the keycap itself, they resolve nicely with a wash. So all the skills that I picked up to learn how to paint keycaps is all common knowledge for anyone who does miniature painting. Or at least I take a lot of my, you know, my learning came from those like YouTube channels. And so the basic tool, the basic processes that we use for painting any keycap is, the big one are like dry brushing, washes, and like edge highlighting. I mean, those are like the really big ones.
To make it pop. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the combination of those 3 or 4 things can make your design go from like flat to looks pretty amazing. And then you get into like color blending and like gradients and wet blending and all these other techniques that can make your design go from a you know, a $30 keycap to a $100 keycap, which is something we didn't really talk about on the show. Is that if anyone's not familiar with artisan keycaps, the normal price for an artisan keycap, and we're talking about a 1 keycap, is in the range of $40 would be a low end, and on the high end could be 100, 115 for a single cap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then also keep in mind too, and it's in there that Robert's bringing up, right? For example, that wood grain, you know, you don't feel like it's deep enough. Don't forget, some of you might go, well, I have to re-sculpt everything. Don't forget there's the contrast now that's in ZBrush in the deformation contrast slider, or by brush, that you can bump those details out a little bit more too. So that's why we added those 2 brushes specifically, as, hey, I didn't get enough details and I can brush across, or use the global slider in there too. So those brushes can come in handy, especially for 3D printing too. So don't forget about those. You just switched your color. Yeah.
Can you help me find it?
Yeah, there's a. Hold on, let me.
Do I press C? Maybe I don't. Do you know the hotkey for it?
I don't have the hotkeys memorized for the contrast brushes. It should be in C. It should be a contrast.
Should go cloth fold.
It's right there. Contrast delta and contrast target. Second row. Keep going to the right. 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 There you go. Boom. Boom. Yeah. Those 2 right there.
So how do I use it?
So you just select it and just brush across, and it'll start pushing the details in more.
Okay. So that's delta. Okay, so that goes in. And
yep. And it'll erase some of the where the edging is a little bit too. So you can bump in and get more.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to actually re-sculpt.
Oh my gosh. Boy, I wish I had this tool like 5 years ago. Yeah.
And then there's a global setting in deformation called contrast. That's actually what that is. It's globally going to do the whole subtool at the same level. Yeah, so there's delta and target. So
I like it.
Yeah.
On that note, big one I use all the time is morph targets too.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that, I think, but the morph target is like a godsend when trying to like fix certain areas without affecting others. There's times where at the scale, like the bottom of the keycap is very important to like keep this depth between 1.5 and 2 millimeters. And just by naturally working and sculpting, you can start like bringing that back out. So like I have a cube on my desktop that's like a 2 millimeter cube. And I'll just like import it and I'll move it to the edge to double check that I'm like always hitting that distance, because I can just easily pull this this area out and like that would start hitting other stuff, right? So there's an auto kind of what I call an auto clip, like on the bottom, like it automatically, whatever I'm gonna design, it just goes away. So it's clipping real time for the bottom of the cap, but I don't have that for the walls because I think outside the box more or less on the designs. So you'll have to go back sometimes and check that these aren't getting too beefy. And so like
the key won't fit on the board then.
Yeah, exactly. So like I might move stuff out like this and then be like, oh man, I messed up there. So I'll set that morph target to make sure I'm keeping true to the design of the important part up here, and then resolve back down onto the back. So this is the Among Us character. Same thing. A lot of cheating with getting it to fit on the keyboard. You can see there's actually like a coming out. This is going past the distance of where you're, say, legal on a keycap to not hit anything, but because it starts small and gets larger, yeah, you're okay. And you know, dealing with resin, this is actually an interesting tip. We're like firing off tips like crazy right now. If you're gonna do magnets and you're putting holes and stuff, we found that there's a lot of resin pooling in these magnet holes back here. So it helps the washing machine like clear it out by adding like a hole between them. So you get like that flow. So the IPA bath, when it sinks to goes in this magnet hole, it like can actually go in and like get through and like really rinse out those holes. Because we'd stick these 1 by 4 magnet, they're like cylinders. We would like shove them into these keycaps for the hats. And then we also ended up doing, so even though it's like a sphere and then like a taper, we use like a cylinder, like a basic cylinder magnet. And this little like bump here helped like hold it in place. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw another one. If you're gonna do magnets like what Robert's doing, because I've done some prints with magnets as well. Yeah. I would recommend a certain plugin that we have that you guys don't get shipped with ZBrush by default. You got to go get it, and you can actually draw in an insert mesh with the exact size that you want. Mm-hmm. So when I did my magnets, I had like a 1 inch by, I don't remember how thick I was, so I just made a cylinder that was a little bit bigger than 1 inch and just half the deepness actually.
Right. Because you don't want to cut.
Yeah. I want that magnet to have ability to snap. So there is a plugin that when you guys, if you want, when you draw out, you'll have the exact measurement of that actual cylinder in here. So I'll put a link in here. It comes in handy for stuff like that, what Robert's talking about as well. So the plugin that you would be looking for is near the bottom of this link, if I remember right. IMM draw size.
Ooh, okay.
So that'll actually, if you have your model like Robert set to the right scale, you can make an essence of cylinders that's 2, 1, 3, and when you draw it out, it'll be 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter, so forth and so on, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's a good one for you too.
Yeah.
Another tip.
Yeah, totally. That would have been really helpful. I think I kind of stopped using insert meshes in general when I started dealing with the magnets and scale, because like you said, when you just do it normally, you don't really know what size you're doing it at. Yeah. And so I'll do it like the old fashioned way. I guess it's like file, make a star or something and then import that magnet into my scene and then like move it around. And then I know I didn't mess with the scale and it's perfect.
Yep.
Also, when I was doing these magnets, you notice that even though I'm using a cylinder magnet, it's like a sphere at the end. I just did that also to stop. If you have like hard edges internally on a keycap, you might create a point depending on the print angle that you're creating somewhere where there's an overhang, and you might need to support that corner. But if you always resolve into something round, 3D printers can pretty much always achieve an arc over the course of the layers. So that way, when we printed these magnets, I like to use a box to see cross sections. This is a really fun tool to do this with, so you can see like where those magnets are. So depending on the angle, this might be a square, and you might have an edge here that like might need a support, or like the printer will round out because it really can't get to that corner. And so like resolving to that circular shape made it print much more accurate than just a flat edge inside there.
Yeah, good tip. Yeah, really good tip. Yeah, nice.
So yeah, and I like using these booleans to create like to see cross sections. So one of the things I had to do is measure how deep. You talk about like how many times you print a design. There's probably like a bucket of like 100 of these keycaps that we either broke, or the magnet like didn't fit, or like, because you talk about the 3D printers can change tolerances over time, or like depending on the angle, it's too big or too small. So measuring like how deep that magnet needs to go to actually work and magnetize something on top of it. I want to show you guys the webpage for this site, for this the keymate for Among Us, because it has the, I think, like a really good set of photography of like how the magnets work. So I think I hit stop screen and then share a tab, right?
No, you can just share it. Just pull it to that monitor.
Okay.
Whatever that monitor is going to, unless you told it to only share ZBrush, but otherwise, whatever's on that monitor, they would see. Okay, there you go.
So
yep.
I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is like one of the really fun projects we got to work on with InnerSloth. We did a set of keymates for them. These are all hand painted. Every single one of them is different. Like the smile and the visors, all of them are different circles, which I think is really unique. And then we did the magnets of 3 different hats. There's like the egg and the cheese and the TV roll. And so I think, you know, this is just part of us exploring as a company of like what's possible.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you get opportunities to create stuff that don't really make sense. But I think it's, you know, we got to do this whole project with the InnerSloth team, which, you know, things like this allow us to grow as a company. You know, opportunities allow you to grow, and you can either, I don't know, you can either take all that money and pay yourself and go buy a Tesla, or in our case, I took all that money and put it back into the company and like started hiring more people, trying to get bigger projects, and just kind of see where we can really take this this idea in like a new consumer product category, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, the hats are cool. They're cute. And so like they're all magnetic. We had to fit the magnets in the bottom of the hats. Yeah, it's fun stuff. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, thanks, Robert. I think you shown a lot of people how you can start like yourself, and then just build slowly and go through those journey and figure things out. And now you've got a company with 10 people, which is awesome.
Yeah. Stressful, but it is awesome. Yeah. I couldn't be more grateful. So
yeah, it's so great, man. Congratulations too, by the way, on what you've accomplished here and what you've grown for you and your business. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the time to share.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great. I think you definitely shared a lot that they were gravitating towards, and inspiration for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good. I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so if anyone's interested in us, you know, even if you just like looking at our stuff, we can be found at Clackeys.com. Especially the Discord is a pretty good group of folks, so you can definitely come say hi, please. And I'll often post like work in progress, or you know, hey, look at this crazy thing I did. A lot of my ideas or our ideas don't really make it to production, but they end up going onto Discord and showing you guys. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'm for us, you know, we're trying to do these streams where we can definitely connect the community with more artists and really show, hey, look what people are doing. That's amazing with ZBrush. So for those that don't know, maybe just watching this, we're doing these pretty much every Tuesday is when we're doing these. So I encourage you to come by. So just so everyone is aware as well, we have another stream coming up next Tuesday from Pascal Ackerman.
Ooh.
So he's going to break down this character for us all. So this is a ZBrush Central image breakdown. So this is where he's got this post on ZBrush Central, and he's going to break down this actual character and show you all like some tips and tricks and how he made this character with inside of ZBrush. So this is the guy he's going to break down. The fun part about this guy, it looks like it's, I don't know if you guys have seen the TikTok guy that does the drawings on the subway of a person. So it looks like it's one of the guys. So Pascal took this guy. I don't know if you guys have seen this guy that draws on the subway. I think he's in New York, I think, if I remember right. And he just sits there and draws someone in front of him real fast, and then gives them
I have seen that. Yeah.
So Pascal took this guy and then said, "Hey, you know, I'm going to make that guy a ZBrush model." And then so it's just an added fun thing. So Pascal's going to be breaking down this model for you all next week. So I would encourage you to jump in this as well if you've enjoyed this stream that we've had going with Robert. That's what all these streams are about for us on Tuesday, is breaking down this stuff with ZBrush artists, showing what they want to do. This is a calendar event that you can be reminded by email. So I can share that in the chat as well for you all. So you guys have that. And I just want to make sure you guys are also aware of all that. So it's very cool. A lot of fun stuff. But Robert, thank you again for taking time out of your day to sit with us and show your workflows and show what you've done with Clackeys. It's amazing. I really appreciate you taking time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Stream, for joining us.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for coming through. So I'm Paul Gabry with the ZBrush team. Thank you all for watching this stream. Hopefully we'll see you at next week's stream with Pascal. If not, have a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.